Good morning. So, Mayor, this is maybe our sixth or seventh event together since I moved here. But if I could have only picked one to do with you, I would have wanted it to be this one. And let me tell you why. Um, when I started last fall doing a listening tour and walking and biking and riding transit with community members, I spent a lot of time in the South End. And I basically heard two things over and over again. I heard we needed to be safer to walk, bike, and access transit on MLK and Rainier, and at the intersection of MLK and Rainier, and a special emphasis on that. And the second thing I heard was there are projects, but they're taking too long. And I'm so excited to say that today's groundbreaking is the first in a series of projects that will be breaking ground over the next 18 months to make our streets much safer and more friendly to walk, bike, and roll and access transit. And this is really the beginning of a wonderful series of investments and improvements in the South End, where you've spent your whole life working with this community. So with that, I'd like to introduce you, my boss, Mayor Harrell.
Thank you, Director Spots. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm very excited here to celebrate the groundbreaking of the Martin Luther King Jr Way Safety Project here in the great Sam Smith Park. A few words about this park. It was brought to my attention that, again, when we look at the trees, that we see a few dying. So now we're going to do some cross work with the Parks Department, because Sam Smith, his legacy was how full of life he always was. I knew Sam Smith personally and just did an event with his son. As many of you know, he was the first African-American council member on the city council. He had a chief of staff whose name was Florence Harrell. It's actually my aunt. And so we're honored to share this exciting news in a park that's named after him. I want to thank the Seattle Parks and Recreation Department. After I said we got some tree work to do, I want to thank them for hosting this great celebration in this park. I want to thank the Washington State Department of Transportation and Puget Sound Regional Council as well. I want to recognize Councilmember Timm Morales. We are in her district, and she, as we know, is a fierce advocate for safety and good transportation solutions. Thank you for being here, Councilmember Morales. I want to thank the Biden administration. Yes. Was that for the Biden administration or Councilmember Morales? I don't know. I want to thank the Biden administration and our congressional delegation, because a lot of the funds that we use are working in collaboration with other jurisdictions. Senators Murray and Cantwell, Congressman Smith, Congressman Jayapal, for contributing to this much-needed safety improvement project. This particular, they watch everything we do, and they have representatives all around us. This particular corridor is critical to our infrastructure in Seattle. As many of you know, it connects South Seattle to the Central District, and there's a lot of history and a lot of memories here. People travel around this area to visit local businesses, the light rail station. Julie, thank you for being here. Of course, with your leadership, the Northwest African American Museum, Franklin High School. I'll introduce the principal in a minute. Thurgood Marshall Elementary. I spent a lot of good years talking to the students there. The Lighthouse for the Blind, Amy Yee Tennis Center, Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Park, just to name a few assets in this great area. The top priority for this particular project, and priority for my administration, is always to keep people safe. And we say that, and whenever we see a fatality or an injury, we not only cringe and we not only become sad, but we put our pen to paper, so to speak, and we think about how we can best create the right infrastructure to focus on safety. The data is very clear that to anyone who travels this stretch of the road, quite frankly, there's just too much speeding on this route. You've heard me say in some of the work that I've done over the years is that if you are in a hurry, just start a little sooner, because we have to recognize that often speed is not a good thing, even though we know we have busy schedules. We've had 2 pedestrian traffic deaths since 2020, and we know that's too many. Most recently, there was another fatality when a person crossing the street was struck by a person driving further south down MLK. That is completely unacceptable. It's tragic, and that's why projects like this are so critical in what we're trying to do. No matter how people get around, whether they're walking, jogging, biking, they're on transit, any way they are getting around, they have the right to be safe. and we want to meet that expectation. So it does clearly break my heart when I see serious injuries or fatalities from any crash. My charter responsibility as mayor and our city's charter responsibility is safety. And I think many of you heard me say that safety comes in many forms, and this particular project demonstrates our commitment to safety. So our neighbors and our community members here in the Central District and in South Seattle and citywide, they deserve safe streets and sidewalks to connect them to work, school, to shop, to play, and have a place of opportunity, a place to recreate. And these areas have to be safe in however you define safe. I want to thank all of the great people in SDOT, Greg Spots, for your leadership. They are fully committed to this work, and they understand what Vision Zero is about, not just the rhetoric, but the hard work that goes into making it a reality. And with that, we're going to introduce, and it pains me to introduce a Quaker, but I'm up for the cause today. Eric Weiss, who has a reputation of being just so committed to not only to the students and the faculty at Franklin High School, but to this community. Eric Weiss, the principal of Franklin High School.
Thank you, Mayor Harrell. And thank you to the city and the Seattle Department of Transportation for inviting me here and for your commitment to the guidelines of Vision Zero and pedestrian safety. Franklin High School is a large urban comprehensive high school with no parking lot, and we are not served by traditional school buses. So the vast majority of our students either walk, bike, take metro, or the light rail to get to school. And almost every single one of them has to cross that intersection at Martin Luther King Jr Way and Rainier. And if you've ever been down there, it can be a challenge, right? There's a pedestrian pedestrian bridge. As a neighbor who's lived in the community for 20 years, I can tell you it is not user friendly. So when I heard that this project was gonna add crosswalks, redo the striping, and add in other features of safety, I was incredibly excited, not just as a parent of 3 kids who've grown up going to daycare right there, Washington and John Muir and now Franklin, but also for all of the students at Franklin High School who have to cross that intersection, not just in the mornings, but in the evenings when they're coming home from volleyball games or basketball games. And then on nights like Thursday night this week when we have our curriculum night, and their parents and grandparents and siblings will be coming to the school when it's dark out. So again, I can't tell you how excited we are to work with the city and the Department of Transportation on making this area safer for our families and for our communities. And with that, I would like to introduce Ms. Julie Timm from the Sound Transit.
Thank you so much. So, I know I shouldn't touch people's mics, but I'm going to try and do my best here. So I am Julie Timm. I'm the Sound Transit CEO and also, notably, a proud resident of Seattle since September of 2022. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your leadership to Mayor Harrell, to the community, to Greg Spots, and Director of SDOT, in really advancing this project forward and looking at how we do connectivity for all of our community members across all of our modes. That the goals of this city, the goals of this project, they're all reflected together in reducing transportation-related fatalities, improving pedestrian, bicyclist mobility, increasing ADA accessibility. That safe route to school component of the schools around us, the communities, is so vital to projects like this and how we do it together. So as we're at the end of the 3rd annual National Week Without Driving Challenge, couldn't be a better time for us to do a groundbreaking on a multimodal project such as this. And I have to say, as Sound Transit CEO, my professional bias might show here, I really am celebrating the particular goal of this, of the access to transit, the multimodal bike pedestrian access to transit. This investment in this community, it will create safer, more accessible, more direct connectivity to the new Judkins Park light rail station that's opening for this community in 2025 as part of the Sound Transit's new 2 line. And that park station, Judkins Park Station, it'll give this whole community, the students that no longer have to pay fares, the 0 fares for youth under 18, for all of our residents. It gives them service to light rail through this access on both sides of 99 directly from Rainier Avenue South and from 3rd Avenue South. That gives that faster, more reliable mobility connections, and it gives it to downtown Seattle. It will give it all the way up to Everett. It'll give it all the way down eventually to Tacoma. It will give it all the way to Bellevue and Redmond. The access that is brought here through this project to transit will give people in this region access and mobility to the entire region. And that is something to truly celebrate, because it's not just about giving access, it's about giving safe access, accessible access by walking, biking, busing, scooting. I saw some children coming by with their parents. However they're getting there, however they walk or roll, these projects get us there. And so it's the interplay between safety and access that Sound Transit proudly contributed $2.4 million from our Access Fund to an SDOT project that works hand in hand with this project, with this MLK project and the Line 2 station at Judkins Park. And that project includes the new staircase at Hiawatha Place South, lighting for the Mountains to Sound trails, signalized pedestrian crossing at 23rd Avenue and South Grand Street. All of these work together. So in conclusion, thank you again, Mayor Harrell. Thank you, Director Spots. Thank you for your strong, long-standing partnership with Sound Transit. This project, the light rail project, the other safety access improvements that join these projects together, and so many others like it across Seattle and across our region, they are lasting evidence of generational investments in our community, in this community, and of our shared priorities for improved safety and access for every member of our local and regional community. So we do this together. And together, we are now, and we will continue to move more people to more places, and we're going to do it more sustainably, more equitably, and most importantly, more safely than ever. Thank you for the partnership. Thank you all. And with that, I would like to hand the microphone over to a good friend that I have just met recently, and I cannot wait to spend more time with, Lee Lambert of the Cascadia Bicycle Club.
Thank you, Julie. I'm excited to be here today because we're in South Seattle starting the construction on a key piece of infrastructure for a simple, safe, connected, and protected bike network throughout the city. And what it's going to allow us to do is make sure that our children can get around safely from high school and open up the city and the region, connecting them from the Rainier Valley to this light rail station that will let them go anywhere they desire. It's important to me at Cascade because we have a program called Major Taylor, and this school year, we are opening up 5 new clubs in partnership with Bike Works to start Major Taylor bike clubs in South Seattle as we recover from the pandemic. So Mayor, I want to thank you. Director Spots, I want to thank you for making this project happen and keeping our young people in South Seattle safe so they can ride their bikes on a simple, safe, connected, and protected bike lane. Thank you. Director Spots.
Thank you, Lee. Lee was on the search committee of folks who reviewed candidates for my job. And he has been telling me throughout this time I've known him in the last year and a half, build bike facilities in the South End. And that's what we're doing. I wanted to just very briefly mention some of our SDOT folks who worked on the project. You know, there's 2 things that I tried to bring to help this project and the other South End corridor safety projects advance quicker. And one was telling my team that we need to bring an enterprise approach to the most important projects. The projects don't belong to one person or one division, they belong to this entire 1,000-person agency, and everybody has to contribute. And you see, anybody who works for SDOT, raise your hand. This is all the people at all different parts of our organization who've contributed. And the second thing I did is I appointed one of our executive team members, Jessica, to be our liaison to the South Seattle cycling community with a special emphasis on BIPOC cyclists. And Jessica, thank you for your leadership across all of these projects. So let's just mention a couple of our key members on this team. Marilyn, the project manager for this project. She's also working on our Aurora transformation project. She just told me she gets the complex, large, federally involved projects. You have to be good to get those. Construction engineers and design engineers, Lai, Austin, Laurentiu, and Wasim, thank you guys. Planner Jonathan on this project. And communications, Lisa and Ching. Ching and I were out here just a week or 2 ago. There's another project of ours right down the hill. Check it out before you leave. It's like a winding bike path that heads down and makes a very important bike connection down there. And that one was implemented by our staff, Rodney's group. So that was really exciting too. And I want to thank the contractor, C.A. Carey, who won this project and is just getting ready to go out and build it. So with that, let's have our key speakers here come on over, and let's do the golden shovel moment. Yeah, so lift up a little piece of dirt, and then we'll do it, why don't we do it on one Seattle, ready? 1, 2, 3, 1 Seattle.
So you want me to do? I think don't go far. There may be some questions. We're going to do a little Q&A, I'm sure.
Okay.
So, again, I want to thank Gregory Spots for his outstanding leadership, and Lee, thank you for your, why your speech was so powerful, because it was short. That was to go right to the point. And in all seriousness, we'll entertain a few questions if you have any, and if not, we are going to continue with our day. Any questions from the press? Yes, Joel.
Thank you, Mayor. This might be for Mr. Spots just to start off, but a lot of improvements. You kind of touched on this when you first started talking, but for other neighborhoods that are wrestling with these same safety issues, how do they get this same kind of attention?
On my first day on the job, last September 7th, I initiated a top-to-bottom review of Vision Zero. And we have now sort of an audit of how our program works, and a lot of where we're headed is we appointed the chief traffic engineer to be the chief safety officer of our agency, and he's using data to decide exactly where these investments need to go, plus a lot of community input on how we go about making those investments.
Can you kind of just briefly go through what this project is going to do and how much it's going to cost?
Sure, the project costs approximately $9 million, and we could get you a fact sheet too with even more detail, but there's a mile of protected bike lane, there's signal and crossing and curb bulb out improvements at a variety of places to cross, improvements to access to 2 light rail stations, schools and the various bus stops. So it's really a sort of renewal of the corridor so that all modes have a more comfortable and safe and welcoming experience. We just issued a notice to proceed, so it's about to begin right away. And Marilyn, how long is the construction duration?
It should go through next summer.
Through next summer. The question is, how do we keep the momentum going? We have a tremendous focus on finishing strong on the Levy to Move Seattle projects. We have a standing performance management meeting that I chair, driving the categories that still have a little ways to go in the final year and a half of the program. And then we'll be considering bringing forth to voters a new package of improvements, and we're very aware that how we complete the original commitments is essential in making that case. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, just for
I think I bumped it by accident. Sorry.
Just for context, for those that aren't following the issue as granularly as some people do, and I appreciate your question. So the 9-year, $930 million levy, Move Seattle, expires next year. And there were some bumps along that 9-year way, of course. COVID as an example, the West Seattle Bridge, the concrete strike. We had a few bumps along the way, and so what we're doing now, aggressively and thoroughly and urgently, but not haphazardly, is looking at the conceptual foundations for the new levee, looking at where our projects, where we need to pick up the pace, where we're capable of picking up the pace, but again, to do it without compromising the quality of the projects, or the core foundation, which is safety. So we'll, using the cornerstones of what I call the 3 S's, safety, sustainability, and structural integrity or structural maintenance, making sure that we are maintaining our current assets. Using that as sort of a conceptual framework, we're looking at this levee. I think the voters have an appetite for a strong, safe transportation system. So lessons learned getting through the pandemic, and looking forward to do exactly what you said, keep the momentum, keep the traction, keep the energy, because Seattle deserves it.
I'd like to ask you about people who ride public transit. Obviously, these Metro and light rail are run by other agencies, but a lot of Seattle people use these services. What more can your office do to keep those people safe, given criminal acts?
So, again, there are 2 transit agencies that have, I'll call, infrastructure responsibility. And we have the leader of one here, I think she's still here, and of course the county. But I will say that, yes, the safety issues are of critical concern. Much has been written even recently, and I try to read everything I can about that. So we are, as a member of the Sound Transit Board, as an example, we address the issues brought forward to the Rider Experience Committee. We recently passed a law that talked about drug use as an example, and I issued an executive order to talk about how we have to keep areas safe, particularly where people are relying on transportation. So all I can say is we remain committed. We have systems in place, I think, to improve what the riders want. We realize this is, for many, their only source of transportation. And I have confidence in both Julie's leadership and the county council's leadership on listening to the concerns. I don't know what else to say about that, but we do acknowledge that the transit experience is not where we want it to be.
Have you talked to the executive directly about this topic?
Almost weekly, yes. And they understand it, and your question was probably better proposed to them, but they understand the urgency of the problem. Okay, thank you for being here. This is an exciting project. Thanks, Director Spots. We are excited. Go Quakers!
Go Quakers!